the quantum, there's no time, right? So
Right.
you're having that dream and you're helping to heal her, and then at some other place and time she could be having that experience, but because there's no time in that other realm, that energy exchange and that energy healing is still happening.
To me, receiving a dream and not working with it is like being given a beautifully wrapped present that was picked out and made just for you.
Welcome to the Shamanic Tonic podcast, where we explore various shamanic concepts and other energy healing modalities with the intention of being able to practically apply these concepts in everyday life to feel more empowered, heart opened, and centered. Hey everybody, I'm Rise and I'm here with Lisa. Welcome to this episode of Rise and Shine Shamanic Tonic. In this podcast, we explore shamanic concepts and other energy healing modalities and how one might practically use them in everyday life to feel more empowered, heart opened, and potentially feel more centered. So, in this episode, we are going to talk about dreams. And Lisa here is our dream expert. But first, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our podcast. With that, let's jump right in. So, Lisa, what type of shamanic tonic are you drinking today?
I am drinking today, you can't see it in this beautiful mug, but hibiscus flower, which is also called flor de Jamaica. And I thought I would just show a couple pieces of dried hibiscus flower. I first discovered it in Mexico, and then this I brought back from Peru when we were there, right? Rise. And yeah, it makes this really deep, beautiful, I don't know if anyone can see, beautiful, like purple, red
Yeah.
color. It's a little bit tart. I'm drinking it plain, but you can add honey. And it's thought to cool, like maybe a hot system or an inflamed system. It helps with painful urinary tract issues, can help with menstrual cycles, brings in love, beauty, and romance. It's associated with the water element. And yeah, I really enjoy it. This is hot, which I'm enjoying, but it's
Did you say
so
you got that from Peru?
I did.
Or
I brought it back
oh,
a
okay.
bunch.
Is that native to Peru? Is that one of those things that grows out in the jungle?
Um, well, I think yeah, I think it does. And I know, like I said, in Mexico, it also grows there. It's very popular. Like you'll see it sometimes, like when you go to Mexican taquerias, and they have horchata.
Yeah.
They often have flor de Jamaica as
Oh,
well.
okay. That's what
Yeah,
that is. Okay, cool.
yeah, right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Today I've got a chamomile. I've got some rose petals floating in here, little mini rose petals. I really love these. They smell really good. And I put some aya drops in here, ayahuasca drops, and noyorao per the usual. I actually drink this almost every day. I'll put some of those same ingredients in my green shake.
Hmm.
So I feel like it helps me stay connected to the plants.
Yeah.
So,
Good idea.
but let's kick it off. Today our topic is dreams. Do you want to give an introduction to dreams and why they're important?
Sure. Well, the topic of dreams is one of my very favorite topics. Um, I find them fascinating. And for me, I feel like dreams are about one of the closest ways we can get to the divine. I mean, for me, it's like a shame that we don't talk about dreams more in our culture because it's something that every human does every night, whether they know it or not. And but we don't talk about it so much. We don't wake up in the morning and say, oh, did you have any dreams last night? Or ask our children, did you have any dreams last night? And that's a shame, really, because they're tremendous powerhouses of information. And to me, receiving a dream and not working with it is like being given a beautifully wrapped present that was made, picked out and made just for you, and not ever opening it.
Hmm.
It's because the dreams are so customized to each and every one of us. They're like one of the most personalized free gifts we could ever receive, and yet to not work with them is to not take advantage of them.
Yeah.
Um,
So, do
yeah.
you, what's a good way for somebody to start working with dreams?
Well, the first thing is you want to recognize the value of them, and then basically make a commitment and set an intention to remember your dreams. And I've had people, I'll never forget. There was a time 30 years ago or so, but I had a client, and it wasn't specifically around dream work, but she came in for some coaching. And at one point I asked her, I said, tell me a little bit about your dream life. And she said, oh, I don't dream. And
Hmm.
I said, well, I said, everybody dreams. It sounds like you're not remembering your dreams. And she says,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't dream. I never remember my dreams. And so I gave her some tips on how to remember her dreams. And then the next session, which was probably, I don't know, let's say 2 weeks later, it wasn't longer than that. She came back and she opened up her notebook and she started flipping page after page after page of this handwriting. And I said, are those your dream notes? And she said, yes. And it was like, wow. So, I mean, and I've seen it happen over and over, as I do these dream courses. And the power of setting that intention, of deciding that, yes, dreams are valuable and I want to be in touch with my dreams, can sometimes be enough to help you to remember them if you haven't. But one of the best tools is to have a dream notebook.
Hmm.
And the kind that I recommend is something like this, where it's big, not a small one, not in a half by 11, but something bigger that has just blank pages without lines.
Yeah.
You want to be able to just in the middle of the night write down and not worry about staying in the lines or how neat it looks. I mean, my dreams, they'll be all over the place, sometimes, and it doesn't really matter. The important thing is just to write them down. I don't know. That's actually some pretty neat writing, I
It
have to say.
is. Yeah, that's good.
That's not bad. And I've learned over the years kind of how to do it, but even if it's just to draw a picture, that is worth a lot.
Yeah.
So having a dream notebook at the side of your bed, sometimes I'll just put it next to me on the bed. If it's not on my nightstand and you want to have a pen ready to go, and it doesn't matter if it's dark, you just kind of write down what you can as best as you can. There are pens that have little lights on them. So if you needed to see, you could do that. Um, Sometimes it works well also you could use your phone and voice record the dream.
Hmm.
Um, Ultimately, it's nice to have it written down because I think it's easier as a reference later. Also, you can draw the pictures, and you can't do that in a voice recorder. But sometimes if the dream is just like feels so long and so intense, it can be helpful just to record it, to say what you experienced. But writing them down, having the intention, even at the top of your journal, saying like what your intention for that night might be for that dream, is helpful. There's some other things you can write down too, like maybe things that happen during the day. Um, because all of that helps to just kind of plant seeds, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that
Mhm.
makes sense. I personally use my phone.
Mhm.
I dream every night and I just type it in real quick. I've got a little notepad for the year. I separate them out by year. And for this year, the file's gotten so big that it's super slow. Now when I type, so I think it's time to create a new file. So like the last few nights, I haven't been able to record my dream because it was too slow and I just wanted to go back to bed.
Yeah.
So that's one advantage of technology, but also the disadvantage is sometimes it just gets slow because of the file size. I would
Mhm.
imagine though with those dream notebooks that you have, you must have a lot of those.
I do.
I
I
mean, do
do.
you have a whole room just of
Well,
dream notebooks?
I have like, those big plastic containers full of them.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really in fact, this morning in preparation, I was like looking for one journal, and it was actually my journal from when I did retreat in 2023. So it was a year earlier than when you and I went to Peru. And I just opened it up to look at a dream, and it said, let's see, you'll get this. It said, I am looking out my bedroom window and see a humongous serpent snake. I've never
Hmm.
seen one so big before, whether alive or in a dream or movie. I can't see the whole thing at once, parts here and there as it winds its way. And then I follow it, and then, and then the dream goes on. But what's fascinating about that, as you know, is that that was over a year ago. And
Yeah.
then it was just this past May, April, May, that we were in Peru, and I was given the name Ronibiri,
Yeah.
is the anaconda, the biggest snake in the world. And so, that's one of the things about dreams is they know what's ahead of us, because no dream comes to tell you what you already know.
Hmm.
Dreams are like incredibly efficient. They're not gonna use energy to tell you what you've already figured out or what you already know. All dreams come in the service of health and human wholeness, and all dreams break new ground.
Mm.
So it's interesting that, there was this whole snake thing going on, and then later I get the name Ronibiri, which is the anaconda. Um, yeah, so I'm gonna have to revisit that dream more completely soon, now
Yeah,
that I found
amazing.
it. And the other thing about efficiency with dreams is, it's kind of like where they say a picture is worth a
There's
thousand,
a
or
thousand words.
yeah. And that's the thing, is like, because they're symbolic, there's so much meaning in every symbol.
Yeah.
And um, one example I like to use is if you were to look at uh, 1968, say you saw the year 1968, you would look at that, right? And you just, it registers. But if you were to say it out loud, read it 1968, it takes a lot longer, right? So
Hmm.
the symbolic world is very efficient just because they're pictures, and we
Hmm.
have an awareness of what they're conveying. So they're efficient in that way, and then they're also efficient in that every dream has many levels of meaning.
Yeah. Yeah. That reminds me of the Shipibo language. After leaving the jungle in Peru, I started studying Shipibo more, and I was thinking about what the shaman was telling us, what Don Miguel was telling us, and how he was interpreting the lyrics to some of the songs that he was giving us. And
Yeah.
from what I learned online, Shipibo does not have any grammatical order to it, especially in the songs. You could order the words in any order that you want. And what I started noticing is each of the words have a specific meaning, and that meaning does not necessarily translate into the final meaning of that lyric. So I think of Shipibo as a picture language,
Mm.
and because of what you told me, I started thinking of Shipibo as a dream language where you could, it's almost like the words, each of the words are different images, and you put them together to create like one greater meaning, greater than like the individual parts.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, it
so
sounds very picturesque.
yeah, so I took what you taught me about dreams, and I started thinking about Shipibo in that way. I was like, oh, I think the Ikaros that we sing, they are uh a picture language in a way.
And
So,
you're right, like we would have certain phrases in different songs and they might mean different things. And like in the dreams, like I said, there are many levels of meaning in a dream. So dreams will usually have some remark on the surrounding 48 hours, like 24 hours before, 24 hours afterwards of that dream. So it's really cool. This is one of the most exciting parts of them for me, is to just really be conscious of what's going on. It's easiest for the 24 hours after the dream. But as you go through your life, if you're aware, you will see things happening in your 3D living life that pertain to the dream. Um, so there's that. And then most dreams will remark on our physical well-being. So like maybe if we're constipated, there may be something having to do with that in the dream, or if we're lacking in a certain nutrient, whatever the case may be. So that the physical aspect, certainly the emotional and spiritual aspects. There's also usually a communal commentary that has to do with like us as a whole species on the planet.
mhm.
Um, yeah, so there are various levels. Like people say, "Oh, what does the dream mean?" It doesn't mean one thing. It often means various things.
Yeah, that's interesting. When I was a kid, I was still dreaming almost every night, and I would have this recurring dream where I was flying. And it occurred so much that at some point I started lucid dreaming, and I would be like, "Oh, I'm dreaming." So I would just start flying in my dream. It was like one of my favorite things
That's the
to do
best.
is to fly in my dream. And it felt so real. I would fly to the tops of mountains, I would fly to the tops of buildings. And again, it felt so real.
Mhm.
But as a human being, I've never flown before,
Not
so
unless you're in a plane, right? Yeah, no,
yeah,
I get
unless you're in a plane, but I was a kid
that.
and I wasn't traveling a lot. So, I mean, how could that be? What's going on there?
Well, the flying, I mean, that's one of the best dreams, yeah, when you're flying. And that's one of the aspects of working with Noya Rao. Because remember, Noya Rao
Hmm.
would have us flying and swimming underwater.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And but flying, it's being untethered, it's freedom, being carefree. So that is very symbolic. It's interesting that you would dream it repeatedly. I mean, I do think that we have flying dreams at different points in our life when we are feeling free and or desiring to be free.
Hmm.
Um, but it's interesting that it was a repetitive dream because oftentimes once an issue is resolved, well, I guess that could make sense. Maybe you were having some issues about feeling controlled
Hmm.
and not free, and because we'll continue to dream around a certain topic until it gets resolved. And when that issue gets resolved, because like I said, all dreams break new ground, then we move on to something else.
Yeah.
maybe it was a kind of a continual just, does that resonate like with?
Well, I I every time I flew, it was because I became lucid in my dream. It wasn't like I was not lucid, so it was something that I like to do. In my
Okay,
dream, it's like, "Oh, I'm dreaming. I'm gonna go ahead and fly now."
that's different then. That makes more sense. And for our viewers, if you don't know what lucid dreaming is where in the dream you are aware of the fact that you're dreaming, and so then you can play a more conscious role in the outcome of the dream. Like I did the same thing once where I remember I was like, wow, I haven't had a flying dream in a long time. I want to have a flying dream. So that was my intention for the night. And I did.
Yeah.
I took off, but then I got scared and I like crash landed. So the next
Mm.
thing I said, okay, I want to try this again, but this time I'm not going to be afraid. So I did. I took off again the next night. And in the dream that night, there was that moment of like, okay, it's still a dream. I'm flying. I'm okay. And then I just, soared all over the place.
Yeah.
But yeah, lucidity is where you can play a role, a more conscious role in the dream state.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love those dreams. They're fun.
But that explains more why it was more recurrent because you were choosing
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
have the experience.
And I'm wondering though why it felt so real when I had never flown in real life before or gone on a roller coaster. It kind of feels like when you're on one of those roller coaster rides and you're just zooming through the air. Um,
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like it, maybe in the afterlife, like we really are
yeah, maybe.
need to soar. And so maybe I don't know the answer to that, but like it seems like there's some sort of innate primal remembering
Yeah.
being outside of the body,
I wonder if
or
it's a past
even like
life memory where what if we were a bird in a past life and we were just remembering what it feels like to fly through the sky. I don't know.
yeah, although I think we all have the potential to fly in our dreams. It is sort of like we're in our body in the dream flying, but it's kind of like being out of body at the same time, like transcending the body.
Yeah, dreams are strange. I know some people have prophetic dreams. Do you know
Mhm.
anything about prophetic dreams or how those work?
Yeah, I've had some prophetic dreams.
What's
So
going on
those,
there?
again, like if you're paying attention to the following 24 hours, and it doesn't have to be limited to that, it's just that it's, very common for that to be the case, but sometimes they can be about something, a week later, a month later. But that's of course when you dream about something and then you find out that it's actually happening. The biggest one I had that was really, it actually ended up changing my life. uh I was in my early 20s. I had just gotten married, and one morning I woke up and I was in a cold sweat. My heart was pounding. I was like just freaked out. And my husband said, "It's okay, honey. It's just a dream. It's just a dream." And I said, "No, no, no, you don't understand. You don't know what just happened. You don't know what just happened." He's like, "It was a dream." And I'm like, "No, no, no, no." And anyways, I was just shaking all morning. I was just, I mean, it was just a mess. So the prophetic dream is when you dream about something that occurs later. And oftentimes it's in the initial 24 hours, but it can be later. But one of the ones I remember most, I was in my early 20s, newly married, and I had woken up one morning in a cold sweat, shaking like a leaf, freaked out. And my husband said, "Honey, it's just a dream. Don't worry, it's just a dream." And I said, "No, no, no, you don't understand what just happened." And I remember the dream. It was that I had been that this tall man had come into my room and he wanted to rape me, and I was kind of like, "You can rape me, just don't kill me," because I was afraid
Hmm.
for my life.
Hmm.
And then About 2 hours after that dream, when I'm still shaking, I got a phone call. And it was from one of my college roommates telling me she had some bad news that our other roommate, who I hadn't seen in like 4 years, was raped that morning
Oh, wow.
by a man. And that
Hmm.
she had said the same thing, like, don't kill me. And he didn't rape her, thank God. But so I picked up on something that was happening in real time. I mean, actually, yeah. So, and that kind of thing can be very hard, like on someone like us, people who are intuitive, because when you pick up those energies, then they can really impact you. And for me, what it did was I had stopped getting my menstrual cycle, which
Hmm.
was concerning because I was a young woman. I wanted to have a family one day, and it didn't make me feel whole. And then I worked with a teacher at the Theological Union, and I had told her about my dream life. I had told her that I wasn't getting my periods. And then she put everything together and basically told me I had angel wings, and then that I needed to use those angel wings to protect myself. And that when I go to bed at night, I could say, tonight, my dreams are just for me.
Hmm.
And that afternoon, long story short, after walking home with my arms around me like angel wings, I got my period after like 3 years.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, it was this idea of reserve, and that's the feminine that is so intuitive. So my feminine organs were kind of drained, I think, because I was intuitive.
Mhm.
Just this idea that we could go to bed at night and say, tonight, my dreams are just for me, because to your point, we can pick up on prophetic. They can be prophetic because we are tapping into the greater realm,
Yeah.
this
I mean, some
conscious.
people believe that dreams only happen inside our heads. They're just like memories or recounting of things that happen during the day. But what you're saying is your viewpoint is when we do dream, it is tapping into that other frequency
It
then.
is, because that was a very big example that I just gave. But like another important thing to do with dreams, if we were to all really practice, I just love like the idea, like, what if we had a society where we did wake up and we all had a couple people we could go to and say, oh, I want to share my dream with you. But I have found, because I like to talk about dreams, I have found that I am naturally drawn to share my dream with someone who oftentimes can give me information about my dream, and it can be a stranger.
Interesting.
It's very interesting. Or sometimes I'll have a dream about someone, and sometimes it feels like, okay, I had a dream about someone, and then every now and then I'll like want to reach out to that person. And so, for example, one time I had a dream that a female friend of mine who's in her 70s and can't get pregnant, but that she was pregnant and that her back was really hurting. And so, anyways, I woke up that morning and I felt compelled to call her and just check in. So I did. And then I told her about the dream, and she says, oh, well, that's so interesting that you dreamt that, because I've gained a lot of weight in her midsection. And she says, my back has been killing me. She says, I
Mm,
haven't been able to sleep for the last 3 nights. So now what do you do with that? That's a whole nother question. Like, I don't know what to do with that, except that it got us to connect. And I could support her somehow, maybe give some suggestions for her back. But yeah, or if I dream about the same person a lot, I know it's like, it's time for me to reach out. It's been too long, I need to reach out to that person.
hmm. I had a dream the other night about a friend I hadn't seen in a long time. And in the dream, she had cancer.
Mm.
In the dream, I was helping her heal, energetically. And then I was like, oh, should I reach out? But I didn't reach out. I honestly don't have the energy right now to to reach out to her. But that's interesting that you use dreams as cues to call people.
I
Maybe
have two
I'll
thoughts
consider
about
that.
that. Two
Hmm.
thoughts about that. First, let me get the first thought. I know the second one. So that's the question, right? When we like you have this dream about a friend that you haven't seen in a long time, she has cancer. Well, classically, most likely that may represent something about you.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like first, like you would take that person and ask yourself, what are my thoughts about this person? Are they a nice person? Are they selfish? Are they creative? Are they, what aspects do I see in that person? Because it
Hmm.
could reflect in you, right? And then, we could work with what it means to have cancer, something eating us up alive, something taking us over. So working with it in that way can be very powerful.
Interesting.
And that's probably the way it mostly is. But then there is the other point where maybe this woman does have cancer, and whether or not it's your job to reach out is entirely up to you. But I have also just recently recognized that I think, and you may be the same way, I think I'm starting to heal people in my dreams. Because, like, for example, there was one dream not too long ago where there was a gal who I had just recently met, and we did go on a retreat together and did some exercises together. So I knew some of her, what was up for her. But I had this dream that she was like on a massage table, and it was like she had a vomitiva or something. She was vomiting, and then I was totally caring for her, getting her water, and then I could see like parasites coming out of her body,
Wow.
like she was detoxing. And so I was kind of overseeing this whole thing. Well, I did. The next day I felt like I wanted to reach out to her,
Hmm.
and so I did. And she said, Lisa, she says, that is remarkable because at the time that I had the dream, it was a nap I took. At the
Hmm.
time that I had the dream, she was getting a clearing session.
Hmm.
She said that she had traveled somewhere and she knew that she had parasites that she had to get out. And in that session, she was doing a lot of work around her mom and, just cleansing, wanting to get rid of stuff, the vomiting, so it's possible maybe there was some aspect of me in the dream helping her to heal.
Yeah, potentially. I mean,
And
I would imagine that in the dream world, just like in the quantum, there's no time, right? So
right.
you're having that dream and you're helping to heal her, and then at some other place in time, she could be having that experience, but because there's no time in that other realm, that energy exchange and that energy healing is still happening.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
something was going on. I mean, at the very least, I was probably picking up on her experience, you know.
I think
But
Sandra
if I
Ingerman
wasn't
talks about
really
that
in,
as a shamanic modality, healing modality is healing people.
well, we
Through
know the
dreams.
dreams are cornerstone to shamanism,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah. Another thing I wanted to bring up is me personally, I've been seeing a lot of, not a lot, but sometimes dead relatives will
Hmm.
come visit me in the dream
Hmm.
and they'll give me messages. Or one time, my aunt, so I had this aunt who my mom was always working, so she was always out at work, and I had this aunt who raised me as a kid, and I ended up becoming one of her favorite nephews, you know. And at some point she got cancer and she was dying. And I had this dream where me and her were reunited and we were just hugging each other and just dying. And we felt so much love. I felt so much love for her, so much gratitude. And then when I woke up, I was just drenched in tears. My shirt was wet, everything was wet. And then a few weeks later, she died.
Mm.
So it was just one of those things where I don't know, I felt that connection with her again. And it was such a beautiful release to have that before she actually passed away.
And it's possible that having that dream experience with her is one of the pieces that allowed her to go. Because you know how oftentimes, people give permission, like it's okay, Dad. I'm going to be okay. It's okay if you need to go. You're ready to go. I imagine, you guys were so close that she also probably wanted to be reassured that you were going to be okay, and so you maybe in the dream almost like had your moment with her that
Yeah.
allowed her to release.
Yeah,
uh,
that's a good point. I never thought of that. So thank you
mm,
for bringing that up. Yeah, I still wonder about that. I don't think about that a lot, but I do think about it sometimes.
mhm,
So it was, yeah, maybe it was our souls meeting in that dream state and just doing what we needed to do,
mhm,
for her to transition.
mhm. Beautiful.
What do you think about erotic dreams? What's is that a thing, Like people sometimes have those.
Sure. um
I know when people are going through puberty, right? They have wet dreams. Is that just a physical thing or what's going on there?
I'd have to look into that aspect of it a little bit more. I mean, it probably is, I would imagine, somewhat of a physical thing, the hormones, when you're at rest like that. But probably, yeah, probably, there's a lot of interest at that age and things going on in the dreams about relationships and sexuality. Yeah, for sure, that probably are leading to arousal like that, I would imagine. Um, well, sex is, it's a gateway to spirituality. It's
Hmm.
one of the biggest gateways and ways in which we can help ourselves evolve.
Yeah.
Um, so it is a very spiritual aspect, and it depends on the dream. That's the thing. Like every dream is so unique and it depends on the person's circumstances. But, like you might be having sex in a dream with somebody that in real life, you'd be, waking life, you would never in a million years have sex with, right? But again, what are the aspects of that person that you admire? You know,
Hmm.
becoming one with them.
Interesting. Yeah.
Right? So you're becoming one with this person that's representing parts of yourself that maybe you haven't learned to live out but need to be more fully embodied. And even
Yeah.
when I say it, that brings up, like, when people have sex, there's the possibility of making a baby, which is bringing forth an embodiment, right? So like in a dream, if we were to have sex with somebody, what is it about that person that we need to more fully embody in our own lives? That's just one example. um I'm sure there's countless, ways.
Yeah. Yeah. I once had this dream where I had this relationship with this person I never met before. And it was just like a really nice relationship. And I bring this up because you brought up relationships. It wasn't necessarily erotic.
Mhm.
And it was just this really nice relationship, very loving. And then at the end, I asked that person their name in the dream, and they said Noor. I was like, oh, interesting, Noor. Haven't heard that word before. And then I Googled it, and then it's in some languages that word Noor means divine love.
Mm.
And I was like, what the heck just happened there? Like, how does something like that happen where I was given this word I've never seen before, and it actually means something significant in the waking life. So I was having a relationship with divine love, with spirit. And it was beautiful.
That is beautiful. And that's bringing up a couple things. One, in dream work, the dreamer is always the ultimate authority about their
Hmm.
own. And also that we want to pay attention to those aha moments. So if you Google that afterwards and you get like a tingling or an aha moment or something resonates, then it's usually true for you. Like that's probably what it represented.
Yeah.
In dream work too, like in hearing your dream, it becomes kind of a dream of my own. And in fact, when we work in groups, I would say like in my version of your dream, or that kind of preface it in a way. But for me, just as an example, in my version of your dream, like to hear no or, what that brings up for me, and it's kind of a case in point to where we're going with this, but it sounds to me like no and or. And
Hmm.
I'm really big on
Interesting.
helping people understand because I feel like so many things are difficult or issues because we look at things as being either or.
Hmm.
No, no on this, or it's got to be or that. But there's the both and. Like oftentimes, if we could just remember that there's a both and, it changes everything. And so, case in point here, like your dream, it probably did mean having sex and union with divine love. And
Hmm.
maybe it also, with whatever you were going on at that time, maybe there was a decision that you had to make where it didn't have to be no to one of the choices. It didn't have to be an either or. Maybe it could have been a both and.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
And working with other people and getting perspectives is so powerful with dream work because dreams are coming to tell us, I sound like a broken record, but to tell us what we don't know, right? They're breaking new ground. And so it's hard for us to actually always interpret our own dreams because the stuff that it's bringing up is the stuff that we're not conscious of. If we were conscious of it, we wouldn't be dreaming about it because it wouldn't be up.
Yeah.
So getting the outside perspective of other people is really valuable because they don't have that same unconscious element of their stuff. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. And I was thinking about how you were saying dreams are efficient. Right after that dream, I got a song download with a shooty box, and it was one of those songs I was singing during ceremony.
Mhm.
And I call that song Noor, Divine Love,
Mhm.
based off of the inspiration I received
Yeah.
from that dream. And the tune was stuck in my head right after that dream. And I was like, I've got to capture this.
Well, that brings up the other thing about dreams is just, their ability to inspire creativity and brilliant ideas. The sewing machine, one of the classic stories is about, I don't remember the name, but the guy who first created the sewing machine. And he had a dream one night of a bunch of cannibals. Like there was this big pot and there were people inside, like kind of just like a nightmare kind of dream. And then there were these cannibals on the outside that had spears. And every time someone's head would pop up, they would like spear them back down into the pot of boiling water. And these spears had holes towards the top of them. Well, if you think of a sewing machine, it's a needle that
Yeah.
has the hole on the top where the thread goes through, and they go up and down and up and
Yeah.
down and down. So that's how the sewing machine was inspired, was through a dream
Interesting.
about animals. And there are many stories like that. And I told you too, like when I did ceremony work, actually, around closer to 10 years ago, but and grandmother kept giving me messages about singing, and then I received an ikoro in my dream,
Yeah.
which was one of the most amazing things I've ever experienced. But it was a complete download with the melody and the lyrics, and there was no way I wasn't going to be able to remember it.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah.
So Lisa, do you have any additional guidance or advice on dreams?
Well, there's so much that could be explored. I would say that, the desire to know one's dreams and to dedicate time and interest into one's dream life is cornerstone. Um, if anyone wants to take one of my courses, I'm offering dream courses, and I have seen how valuable those are, both for helping people to remember dreams who don't, and then for the group work aspect. Because when you get those different outside opinions from different people, it's amazing what can come out of a dream. And there's just a lot of value in that. So I would say, ideally aligning oneself with something like that to just get more familiar with dreams and more practiced with how to work with dreams, practice with how to record dreams. There's so much that can be done with them. And even if you captured a dream a week, I mean, that would be amazing. Most people don't do that. Or learned how to share a dream with somebody once a week. I mean, yeah. So I think the interest and the commitment is really, really important. Um, Yeah, I mean, everything else is just, I mean, there's so much to explore. I don't, there wouldn't be time to describe it all, but I think that's just really the bottom line, is just really valuing them for what they can do for ourselves. I'll just say, like, even if someone didn't remember a dream, the dreams are still coming to serve us and to help heal us. That's why we dream. And there have been studies where they will wake people up just as they're about to go into REM sleep. So the people, they get sleep, they're allowed to sleep, but they're not allowed to dream. And
Hmm.
they're woken up just before they go into that dream state. And after a few days, they kind of lose their minds. I mean, they go a little psychotic. So,
Hmm.
that's like drug addicts when they don't dream. It doesn't help their situation because it's part of the reason they lose their minds. Like, it's really restorative and necessary for us to dream, even if we didn't remember them and work with them. But if you can remember them and work with them, then, like, more power to you. It's gonna make a difference.
That's interesting. It's kind of like a purge then, or a transformation of energy, a processing of energy.
It's a good
And
way of
just
putting
as
it.
an aside, I've read accounts online about how people that smoke cannabis every day, sometimes they don't dream and they repress their dreams. And then when they finally stop smoking cannabis or they take a break, they get a deluge
Yeah.
of dreams and they have to go back to smoking cannabis because their dreams are too much.
Well, that's a good point. Cannabis is a very, yeah, it definitely, it is sacred medicine, but it definitely reduces the ability to remember dreams.
Yeah, I
And
wonder
it's
what's up with
true.
that.
Someone could stop, and even that night they'll have a dream. And and that's the thing. Like, when you say they have a deluge, um, again, the answer wouldn't be to go back and smoking cannabis so that you don't have dreams. That is not the overall good way to go, right? But it's kind of like when people don't work with dreams and they aren't able to break through whatever unconscious issue is stirring within them, eventually they may have the classic nightmare. And
Hmm.
that's because the message is not getting through to the person's consciousness. So eventually spirit sends a nightmare, because most people remember nightmares, right? Like most
Yeah.
people, even if they say they don't dream, if they have a big nightmare, they tend to remember it
Hmm.
at least for a day or two, right? Um, because that's the spirit saying, you know what, we are not getting through to you. We're going to have to send you a nightmare to really wake you up. But no one really wants to have a nightmare. So it's like anything, like if you could learn to work with the dream life, you're going to be less likely to have a nightmare.
Hmm. Yeah, that
Yeah.
completely makes sense. I Somebody was saying how nightmares, it goes along with what you were saying. They're supposed to be like your biggest helper. You know,
Mm.
I think you get the most information from nightmares.
But you
So,
don't have to do that. Like, it reminds me of like a healthy immune system. Like
yeah.
when someone has a healthy immune system, they don't have to, we could call it get sick, which is really detoxing. They don't have to detox as often. They don't have to get night sweats and diarrhea and break out and shivers and all those things that we do when we're detoxing. But if you don't follow a good diet and you don't, do things that are good for you, then it's going to build up, and then you like have a massive detox or illness episode.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
kind of think of that as similar to plant medicine, ayahuasca, right? Like if I was holding something back, like a sort of trauma that I haven't addressed, and then all of a sudden I'll drink the sacred medicine, then it comes in full force, really strong during the ceremony. Because really, being in that psychedelic state, in that plant medicine state, it's kind of like dreaming,
Yeah.
because we see things. And I
Mhm.
remember one point in my life where there's a thing that on a mental level I thought I had dealt with, some guilt related to a past relationship. And then I kept dreaming about, this relationship. And it wasn't until I finally dealt with that and I came to a point of self-forgiveness that those dreams eventually stopped.
There you go.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
it's really interesting.
Mhm.
Okay, so Lisa, where can people find you?
The best, I'm on Instagram, imperfectly underscore vegan. Uh, but the best place is my website, sacredexploration.com.
Okay, great. People can find me if they want to experience some, shamanic service, some energy healing. I'm also going to start offering, I think, past life regression. I've been studying past life regression and this mode of quantum healing. They can find me at rishasanctuary.com. That's RISHA sanctuary.com. And we have an Instagram that is Risha underscore sanctuary. That's our handle on Instagram if you guys want to connect there.
Well, this was fun, Rye. You know me,
Yeah,
I
well, thank you,
topic matter, so that was a lot of fun.
Lisa. I really appreciate your time, and I will see you later.
Okay, enjoy that tonic.
Yeah.